Hello, everybody. Today is March 10th, and welcome to the regular board meeting. And the item one is flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have the next item here is board agenda approval. And we need a motion, and I will be going with the roll call vote. Can someone make a motion?
I move to approve the agenda.
Thanks,
second.
Laurie. Thanks, Phyllis.
Trustee Lou,
Aye.
trustee Cunningham,
Aye.
trustee Vogel, trustee Leon,
Aye.
trustee Madhato,
Aye. Thank you. The next item here is superintendent's report.
Thank you. So I just have a couple of things I wanted to highlight. One is that we know after March 11th, we will be moving with our new updated CDPH guidelines. So we will no longer mandate the mask wearing indoors. We did just send out a communication about an hour ago with the updates for our families. We are also shifting away from sending out the entire community the updates on our COVID cases, and they will only be to site specific. So we'll see some of those shifts as we move into next week. The one that we are asking, we know that families will have their own reasons why they choose whether to mask or not mask. And if they haven't already done so, we do encourage them to have that conversation. And we hope that everyone treats everyone kindly and with respect whichever decision that they do make. As a district, we are going to continue to still provide the weekly testing at our school sites, as well as we do have our TRC open 7 days a week for our community to take advantage of testing. And so we'll continue to offer that as just another layer of protection as we move forward. So again, communication went out. We look forward to the shifts, and we're just recognizing everybody still has different emotions about it, and just be respectful of everyone's decision on that part. The second one is just wanted to readdress again. We still receive many emails with questions regarding our school closures, regarding our budget, and really are encouraging our community with those questions to definitely to reach out to us, but also to continually check our website. We always are updating our FAQ, our information sheet there. So as a new question comes in, we do go in and update our FAQ. Really important for us as we're seeing some of that misinformation that's circulating out there in the social media, and families are relying on a third party for that information, to really encourage using our data that we're providing so that they have that accurate information to formulate their decisions and their questions on. So just again, we do update as frequently as we're getting those new questions or as new information, or if we need to clarify. So really are pushing back, and we're excited because we will have our new web page up and running here in about another week. And so it'll even be easier access for our families to seek out that information. So that's all I have to share tonight.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Yao. So we have a classified employee of the month. And Mike, you are going to talk. Thank you.
Thank you. So as you know, this is a really fun thing to be able to announce during the course of our year. So I'd like to talk about a special lady who's the secretary one over at John Muir Elementary. This is Shalja Goyle, and we have some comments that some of the staff has about Shalja, and then I'll let the principal, Adrian Van Gordon, talk. But some of the comments about Shalja. Shalja has been the sole secretary at John Muir, has been doing it all. She manages the COVID case tracking, fields all questions from confused or angry or scared parents, screens all impromptu parent phone calls and visits, administers first aid, and supervises students in the isolation room. In addition to her regular attendance secretary duties, Shalja has been learning to take on some of the budget secretary duties, has used her sub-credentials to substitute in classrooms, and has supervised the after-school learning hub. She does it all with a joyful laugh and a smile. She's a human extraordinaire and always keeps an upbeat attitude in the midst of chaotic days. She cares for students, staff, and community. So what I want to do is bring on Principal Van Gordon and let her speak a little bit about Shalja as well.
I'm happy to. And I hope you all can see her because she looks gorgeous and she's wearing a special sash that my staff made for her that says Employee of the Month. I think she has a tiara too. Do you have your tiara on, I hope? All right, you'll have to show me that one tomorrow. So, Mr. Gelber read aloud many of my sentiments. So to add on to that, I just want to say, all of us are going through one unprecedented crisis as a school family, and that's the COVID-19 pandemic, and that in a few of our sites, including Mira, we're going through a second unprecedented crisis, and that is the shutting down of our school as a neighborhood school. And throughout that, Shalja has been right there by my side. We're a very small school, and our secretary too is supporting Miller now, although Susan Zimmerman does continue to support some of our budget work at Muir, but essentially it's really just Shalja and I in the front office, and I really couldn't have asked for a better partner. And I think all of the Muir staff feels exactly the same way. So this is more than earned by Shalja. I'm very grateful that she received this honor, and to speak on her behalf, she really does deserve this.
Thank you for everything, Adrian. Thank you.
Congratulations, Shalja. And anyone else wants to speak? Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on then. The next one is Chief Teacher Grant Fundraising Platform.
Well, we're excited tonight, and before I turn it over to Allison, I just really wanted to give a big thank you to Karen Riscala and the entire CEF. They have been our partners, so supportive of us throughout. Sometimes people may think they've gone quiet, but they are really working behind scenes and continuing to support and offer across the entire district some amazing opportunities for our staff. And so I'm just really pleased and happy that we have that partnership, and so thankful for them. So I'll turn it over to Allison.
Yes, and in addition to thanking our incredible CEF team, I wanted to start off by saying a special thank you to our teachers. I've been able to read the grant applications as they've been coming in, and our teachers are just doing incredible things in the classroom outside of the regular core curriculum that everybody's working on. This grant program, new this year, has captured the tremendous creativity of our teachers. They truly are going the extra mile to bring our strategic plan to life, and all kinds of ideas are funneling through. And then I can see the ideas spreading from teacher to teacher across the school as new applications are coming in. So we're really excited to share with you a little bit more about this new program, as well as the fundraising program. And I'm going to pass it over to Karen.
Thanks, Allison. Can everybody hear me all right? Okay. Stacy, thanks for your kind words. I appreciate the time tonight to share with you all the details around the work that our organization has been doing to support CUSD in the schools this year. In late October, CEF committed a $100,000 grant or $100,000 to implement a teacher grant program for all CUSD teachers. As you all know, there's roughly 750 teachers, and each is eligible to apply for a grant this year up to $500 to purchase additional supplies for the classroom or professional development. You can see here some of the more popular items that have been requested, and Allison noted they're pretty neat items that are being brought into each classroom. We've already granted just over $72,000 in this first 4.5 months, and we're pretty confident that we'll reach our $100,000 commitment, as less than a quarter of the teachers have applied for a grant to date. We are reviewing how to expand this program next year to allow for grant applications from other CUSD employees like school psychologists, counselors, library media clerks. school site instructional tech staff, as well as to allow applications from district departments and grade levels of teachers too. We'll discuss that program expansion with the CUSD Executive Board once we have some more details on how it might work, but we are hoping to expand for next year and have more impact on that. I know that Allison had some of our teachers put together highlights, so I think we're going to flip to that next.
Hi, I'm Danielle, and I'm a third grade teacher in Cupertino. I was able to use the CEF funds to buy multiple items to enhance our growth mindset corner in our classroom. The posters behind me have been really helpful with giving students phrases of how they can use their growth mindset. We bought this cart and added multiple growth mindset and social emotional learning books. And I also purchased multiple social emotional and growth mindset games that the students have been using in the classroom. And I think overall, these materials together have really helped my students understand what a growth mindset is. They especially love this book, I Can't Do That Yet. We've had a lot of conversations about the power of yet, and also the games have really helped them to enhance their communication skills and identify their feelings in and outside of the classroom. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Hello, Asa Stern here from Lawson Middle School. I'm representing myself and Natalie Pangelinin, who is out on maternity leave. CEF gave us some money for sheet music this year. That music helps us keep our library up to date and relevant to our students. We're able to buy new music that has come out through movies in the past year or other pop songs that the students might want to play. It also allows us to buy more materials that we need to teach our students, not just popular music, but also classical music that teaches them other concepts and styles. And so CEF support has allowed us to do that, and it's been invaluable for our program. So thank you, CEF, for supporting our musical programs. Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Davis. I teach 4th grade at Stockelmeyer Elementary School, and I want to thank CEF for their generous grant. I am running a morning intervention class for students who need SEL, and I'm working with 4th and 5th graders to create a Panda News broadcast. So I use the CEF grant to buy supplies for students to create props for our Panda News crew. The biggest purchase has been a green screen, which we haven't used yet, but we're hoping to utilize for our March episode. So we're experimenting with a green screen, and then some clip-on microphones has been really helpful. So thank you again to CEF very much. We're having a lot of fun.
Great videos. So next, I'd like to share with you some information about a centralized fundraising platform. Well, actually more of a centralized collections platform that CEF developed last spring and summer. The design of the system was a joint project between CEF and a group of parents from several of our CUSD schools. The platform provides a mini site for participating schools with a shopping cart where all nonprofits like parent organizations and booster clubs, as well as the school's front office, can collect online donations and sell products like spiritware. It's really meant to provide one-stop shopping for parents. We launched the platform in August for DeVargas, Hyde, Lawson, and Muir. You can see on this first slide the shopping cart for Lawson, which includes items from the PTA, music boosters, sports boosters, front office donations for classroom funds, and even a donation item for those who would like to donate to CUSD's general fund. So each participating school has its own shopping cart. The donor relationship stays with each individual nonprofit. So the school and nonprofits maintain all branding, communication, and outreach to donors. On the next slide, you can see two views from the dashboard that the platform administrators at these nonprofits can access. So the school and parent organizations maintain visibility and ownership of all donor data through live custom reporting. So physical checks and donations and matching that we receive from employers is added to this dashboard monthly, and quarterly distributions are made by electronic funds transfer to the individual bank accounts for each nonprofit at the individual school. So nonprofit administrators can only see the data though for donations and sales for items in the shopping cart for their nonprofit. So they can't see the data on items from other nonprofits in the shopping cart. Next slide, please. So this is a summary of some of what I've already outlined at the top for your review as we move into the Q&A, but I'd like to point out first that one of the benefits of the platform is the savings each participating nonprofit has by essentially outsourcing all of their donation processing to CEIF. So this helps with volunteer recruitment and attrition. It allows the school leaders to focus more on parent education, outreach, and the actual fundraising instead of all the back-end management and accounting that's needed if they're processing all of the individual donations and sales for their organization. CEIF will be demoing the platform this spring to those parent organizations that showed interest in the idea last spring, but who weren't really ready to sign on for something that was not yet implemented and tested. Chris, you and I also recently had a chance to talk about the platform and discuss the idea of possibly signing on more school offices to process donations like those loss in classroom funds or field trips, things like that. Because we can quickly clone mini sites for new nonprofits and schools. So CEIF has already provided the funding to build this customized tool, and we're committed to funding the staffing required to support it going forward. So there's no actual cost to the schools or the nonprofits utilizing it. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have on the platform.
Thanks, Karen. So any of you have any comments or questions? Yeah, we want to, yeah, Jenny,
happy to
thanks.
start now. So first of all, thank you, Karen, for the presentation here. And I first just want to express my appreciation for the partnership we have with CEIF. I think this is, the teacher grant's great. I hope we're able to expand that for the future. I did have a couple of questions about the fundraising platform. I like it a lot, first of all. Having been involved in PTA fundraising, there's a lot of paperwork involved in collecting all the collecting the money and issuing the letters and all that. It sounds like you've automated that. So I guess the one question is, do you see this being able to use? So you've talked about supporting the schools, potentially the offices. What about down at the teacher level? Have you guys talked about, could individual teachers put something up for a particular classroom, or is that sort of not in the plan? So just wondering what the current thinking on that.
Yeah, I don't think that that's actually come up as a request from any of the folks that are currently participating. So it's not really been a topic of conversation, but I can tell you technically that's not a problem. If we had an individual teacher that wanted to put an item out there as a campaign, that's very easy to do technically with what we've built. I think it would come down to a conversation at the school level, whether that's something that they would like to do or not. So I think that doesn't sort of cross CEIF's path to make a decision on, but I can tell you technically that the infrastructure is there to provide that.
Right. Okay. All right, that makes sense. My second question is, what do you think are some things the district can do to help you be more successful in your mission?
Yeah, I mean, the provision of this platform is really to help the district and the schools raise the level of fundraising, because as you all know, that historically CEIF, we run into problems sometimes when there's events going on at schools and we want to throw an event, and donors may or may not, parents may or may not want to give at the district level for something they could give, hyper locally at their own school. So we have in recent years taken a step back from throwing the bigger fundraising events like we did in the past. And this platform, what we believe is it's going to allow the nonprofits and the front offices at the schools to focus on more of what they need to do, either for the staff at the school or for their parents. So I think it's not so much CEIF's mission as much as it is to help those organizations fundraise more by utilizing the platform, because we're trying to unload all the nitty gritty work that happens on the back end to collect checks, bring the checks to the bank, do all of the back end processing for that. I think if there's a way that your team can consider whether it makes sense for the individual schools to put items out here and make it truly one-stop shopping for the parent. I believe that's helpful. I've been in the district 15 years now. My kids have been out a while, but I know that when I was working at each of the individual schools, the thing we heard every fall was, can you just tell me what you want? Give it all to me at once. And so I think if we could have the schools also utilize the platform, I think that will be helpful to the families, but I also think it will encourage the individual nonprofits and parent organizations to then want to utilize the platform. Because as an example, what we've seen with Lawson, when we've had one of the boosters put some requests out to parents and pushed the link, and it's a personal link for each one of these carts, but they pushed that link out to parents, then the PTA, who wasn't doing a campaign at the moment, saw an uptick in their donations because parents were being driven to that page. They got to that page and they said, oh, I'm here for music boosters, but look, I also need to do these items for PTA. And oh yes, I have a sixth grader. I need to do the sixth grade classroom fund. And so I think, getting the schools on board, which you guys have, a little bit more sort of say in, would help us drive some of the nonprofits to participate as well.
Right, that makes a lot of sense, helping the discoverability of these different causes. And so, all right, that makes sense. Thanks for the input there. And thanks again, Karen.
Thanks, Jerry. Anyone else? Okay.
I'd just like to thank CEEP. I think this is a great step forward in support, continued support from CEEP. And just to follow up on what Jerry said, I could see in my former life as a teacher, I could imagine using something like this to collect field trip funds and things like that, where we collect money from kids. I can imagine maybe there might be some teachers interested in that, but thank you, Karen, and thanks to your team. This is a great partnership, I think.
Thanks, Phyllis.
I just want to echo the thanks. It's great to see the videos. Thanks for putting that together, because it is great to see, some of the projects the teachers are really working on. The fundraising platform is amazing. I actually talked with a couple parents at Lawson who were raving about it and how it's really helped their fundraising. So thanks again, just to your organization and for the partnership over all these years.
Thanks, Sylvia.
I'll just add my kudos, Karen. Thank you so much to CEEP. I think this is an amazing pivot that you all have made into something that's so purposeful and so helpful for the district as a whole. I hope that people who are looking to help our district and help our students and help our teachers, recognize how much CEEP has been a partner to that, and will get involved with CEEP. I also just want to say, as a parent, the idea of one-stop shopping has, like you said, been a goal as long as I've been a parent leader. And it is tangible how close we are to that with this. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Lori. And I think everybody said, and I just want to echo the same thing. Already in just 4 months, we are 70% of the target. Hope the remaining months we will cross more than 100,000, and our teachers will be much more happier, for getting. You can cover more teachers, and looking forward for more partnership with you. Thank you. So, anything else can we move on to the next one? So, yeah. I think initial portions are done. Now it's a communication, employee organization. Do we have?
Yes, we do. We have CEA President Kai Brown.
Okay, thank you. Kai, please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you see me?
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you once again for letting me speak. I'm speaking tonight to emphasize the importance of providing our staff with a competitive raise this year. Many of my members are facing hard times. The recent inflation and cost of living, exacerbated by high fuel costs, are stretching our folks thin. Our staff members are being forced to make the hard choice between staying at the schools they love and providing for their families. Many have already made that choice and are leaving CUSD for other districts and other professions. For proof of this, you need only look no further than our current vacancy list. Cupertino Middle alone has 12 vacancies. Of these, 6 are in sixth grade core teachers. This is almost half the core teachers at that grade level. McAuliffe also has 6 vacancies, which is more than a quarter of their teaching staff. The fact that we have all these openings and are only in May is truly concerning. When we have this type of turnover to school, it adds more stress to the teachers who are currently there, as they now have the need to mentor new teachers who are hired. While I realize we're competing with better funded districts around us, you need to realize that just as in business, talent will leave CUSD if we can't provide competitive compensation. In fact, this is already happening. I recently collaborated with HR to discuss the Teacher of the Year selection process. I suggested that instead of using the traditional method of having CEA site reps run the selection process at each site, it would be better to have the previous Teacher of the Year do it. HR initially agreed, but then reported back to me that we don't even have enough previous site Teacher of the Year left in CUSD to run the process. Many of them have left. We are losing our best and talented employees. Please help us retain our quality educators by providing them the best compensation we can. I've sat through many board meetings in which board members fret about how CUSD needs to save money for a rainy day. Well, I say the storm is upon us. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Kay. Do you have from other organization? Ellen?
No, we do not.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go for the public comments, and public comments, we have the comment cards. Actually, you should be filling it before this. And then the items, we have 2 types, right? Items in agenda and items not in agenda, right? So for items in agenda, we'll be calling or you'll be talking along with each of the items. For items which are not in agenda, initially we will be doing 20 minutes, the beginning of the agendized items. So we allow 20 minutes as we discussed earlier. And if anything more than that, we will do towards the end of it. Okay, so please fill in the comment cards and accordingly we'll call the name. The next one is the consent items. We have 1 Apple item and rest all of the non-Apple items. Can I get a motion for 5.1?
Point of order, are we supposed to do the?
We do have
20
public
minute
comments
we're gonna
not
do
on the
public
agenda.
comments? On public comments?
Oh, okay. So sorry, I think, yeah. Okay, sorry about that. And okay, we'll start the public comments in 20 minutes from now. So how many public comments we have?
We have 9 public comments not on the agenda.
Okay, so are we okay for 2 minutes each or any suggestions? Okay, so what we'll do is 2 minutes for each speaker. And if we cannot finish within 20 minutes, the remaining speakers will go towards the end of it and then we call before we move for the closed session. Okay, thank you very much. Then can we get the names, please? Or you can call in the names, Ellen.
If you could please raise your hand or come to the podium if you're in person. Steve Greenfield, Laura Hennessy, Kurdrutsa Popescu, Mariam Yatsti. Steve, go ahead.
Sorry about that, bringing it up. Dear board members and EC members, my name is Steve Greenfield, Dilworth's CEA rep, the CEA PAC treasurer, and one of Dilworth's 5th grade teachers. I wanted to thank you for the time to speak about an opportunity you have available this evening, this very minute. You have the chance to give your multi-degreed, credentialed teachers a pay increase that will bring CUSD into line or very close to your neighboring competitor school districts. Your employees love their jobs, the students, and look forward to coming into work every day, no matter where they are currently working. You have an employee pool that gives everything they have to their students, their schools, even to you. They give you their free time to make our students' experiences some of the most positive in the state. CUSD is the best school district because of who we are. You profess to hear us, listening to what we've asked, but if that's the case, why are we not seeing any action being taken on providing salary parity with any of the other neighboring school districts? We're last when salary schedules are compared. You keep saying saving for a rainy day, and I'm here to tell you it's pouring rain, the hull has holes, and teachers are bailing. If teachers cannot receive a salary that allows them to survive, let alone live here, they will be forced to leave the jobs they love. Please, before the damage to our district's reputation is permanent, increase credential pay accordingly. Thank you for this time for speaking.
Thank you, Steve.
Laura, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Laura.
All right, wonderful. I am the rep from Cupertino Middle School, and I am super grateful for everything that the board and executive cabinet does for us. I think I speak for my colleagues when I say that morale is incredibly low for most of us. A lot of us feel tired, burnt out, and stressed by the constant changing and rigors that COVID has provided us. Most of us feel guilty for taking a day off to alleviate it, lest one of our fellow tired, burnt out colleagues must fill in for us. And I worry that if conditions continue in this way and morale continues to be low, many teachers will leave in droves at the end of each school year, including this one. Should that pattern continue, our students' learning will suffer from a lack of consistency and adequate support. We have the resources to hire and retain the most talented teachers in the Bay Area, and we should be using them. Please give us the long-awaited raise that we deserve. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Laura.
Miriam, go ahead.
Miriam.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm here to say that our students' parents pay a lot of money for rent or spend millions of dollars to buy a house in Cupertino in order to enjoy the many benefits our school district provides. Yet these parents do not know that our teachers earn much less than teachers in many other Santa Clara County school districts, and the problem that threatened CUSD as a result. CUSD schools and its students are suffering by the loss of wonderful teachers to other local school districts. Moreover, some CUSD classes are forced to utilize substitute teachers for months before our district is able to attract single teacher willing to accept a full-time position. In some cases, the district has no alternative but to hire teachers who either do not yet have a teaching credential or who have just graduated from college, thus lacking significant teaching experience. While some of these people may be or soon become good teachers, all too often, once they gain experience, they leave our school district to take a better compensated position elsewhere. It is imperative that sometimes be done, something has to be done soon to meaningfully address this financial disadvantage suffered by CUSD teachers. And thank you for taking my call.
Thank you, Miriam.
Okay, our next group, we're also still looking for Kodrutsa Popescu, if you would like to raise your hand. And then our next group of teachers, public comments is Gretchen Dix, Joyce Fisher, Lucinda Trice. Kodrutsa, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Kodrutsa Popescu, and I have been a science teacher at Miller Middle School for 16 years. Our district has slipped in the county compensation rankings, while the district surplus dollars and budget carryovers balloon. Our students deserve consistent, committed, well-compensated, and respected teachers guiding and supporting them. Our students deserve stable schools with highly qualified teachers. It is important that the CUSD board members make it a priority to provide a very substantial raise over the next few years in order to retain our quality educators, attract new educators, and provide excellent learning environments in all of our schools for each of our students. Please, board members, show your support for stable schools for our students by supporting substantial salary increase for all CUSD educators. Only so will Cupertino maintain its stellar academic reputation and continue to attract outstanding students. Thank you.
Thank you, Kodrucha.
Joyce, go ahead.
Hi, good evening.
Joyce.
Our students deserve consistent, committed, well-compensated, and respected teachers guiding and supporting them. They deserve teachers who want to come to school and give their best because they feel that the district supports their efforts and professional services. You need to act to bring Cupertino Union School District back to the respected district it was, now that you've finally had the financial resources to do so. As a special education teacher and community member, I am truly worried about the state of our schools. Over the last 7 years, we have had turnover of 9 special education teachers at Hyde. To put that in perspective, the 10 years prior to that, we only had 3 new special education teachers. And during that time, we added a position. It is important to note, Hyde is one of the most stable middle school special education teams in your district. Some middle schools have had complete turnovers in special education teachers more than once over the last 5 to 7 years. Consistent teams of teachers are critical in special education so that students and families can build connections with the school team. It is also critical for the teachers as well, as we work with the same students in one way or another. We work best when we can coordinate and benefit from each other's strengths and also support each other's weaker areas. Our students, your children, deserve better. Cupertino Union School District needs to provide a substantial increase in compensation to retain your current special education teachers and service providers. Cupertino Union School District needs to provide competitive compensation to attract the best new special education teachers. Please reflect on the priorities of the district budget, especially the ballooning and balances. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Joyce. Can we get
Excuse me, Gretchen, I promoted you to panelist so you can turn your camera on as requested.
Okay. Hi. Thank you. My name is Gretchen Dix, and I'm a 4th grade teacher and have been in the district about 12 years. I'm also the CEA rep for FERIA. I want to reiterate that our students deserve stable schools and highly qualified teachers. We know our district can make a fiscally responsible yet significant and sustainable commitment to our teachers who give our students so much. Our district has slipped in the county compensation rankings, while our surplus dollars and budget carryovers balloon. Our students deserve consistent, committed, commensurately compensated and respected teachers guiding and supporting them. It is important that the CUSD board members make it a priority to provide a very substantial raise over the next few years in order to retain our quality educators, attract new educators, and provide excellent learning environments in all of our schools for each of our students. We need the district to reassess their priorities and use their increased funding, budget carryovers, and surpluses to do just that. Show your support for stable schools for our students by supporting a substantial salary increase. Thank you so much for letting me speak.
Thanks, Christian.
Lucinda, go ahead.
All right. Good evening, board trustees and Superintendent Yao. My name is Lucinda Trice, and you know me as the intervention specialist at Cupertino Middle School. I'm also the parent of 2 boys over at Eaton. I have been in the district for over 20 years. As an intervention specialist, I look at data, and tonight I want to share some data with you to let you know why I fully support our students having stable schools with highly qualified teachers and less turnover. CUSD can make a fiscally responsible yet significant and sustainable commitment to our teachers. It is time to stop the brain drain and improve teacher retention because our students deserve consistent, committed teachers who excel at what they do. I gleaned this data from personnel reports ratified at board meetings and from the CEA seniority list and from the CMS staff directories. 215 teachers have resigned from CUSD in the last 5 years. And while the resignations have been higher since the pandemic, even pre-pandemic in the 17 and 18-19 school years, 97 teachers resigned, which is nearly half of the 215. At CMS alone, there have been 159 unique teachers over the last 9 years. Of those 159, only 18, 11%, have consistently been at COOP for the last 9 years. 75 of those 159 have left our district to work elsewhere. That is 47.2% that have stayed fewer than 9 years. In contrast, only 13 have retired in that same amount of time. In addition, in the last 5 years, CUSD has hired 48 new SPED teachers out of a total of 66 SPED teachers across the entire district. Only 18 SPED teachers have been in the district more than 5 years. I ask that you research and chew on this data, make CUSD a district where teachers not only want to come, but to stay. Thank you.
Thanks, Lucinda.
Our final two speakers are Adriana Arola and Gloria Sue. If you could please raise your hands. Adriana, go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you
we
guys hear me?
you. Yes, yes.
Okay, good evening, board members. My name is Adriana Arriola. I'm an SEIU negotiator, team member, and a custodian here at Cupertino School District. I'm here to talk about the impending closures of 3 schools, Regner, Meyerholtz, and Muir. As we all know, the district has been talking about this for months, but has not officially informed our members who work at these 3 schools what the effects of these schools closures will be on them and to their positions. Our members have the right to. In fact, why were the teachers given the right to stay with the CLIP program at from Meyerholtz to Muir, but our custodians with more seniority were not? They have the right to. The board has a responsibility to force the superintendent to treat our members with dignity and respect they deserve by abiding by our contract. Also, we have asked several times for a budget presentation at the bargaining table, and we have not yet received that as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Adriana.
Gloria, go ahead.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Hi, my name is Gloria, and I'm a teacher at Kennedy Middle School. I want to add to the voice of the union to request the board to consider a substantial pay raise for teachers. I've been in the district for 8 years, and this has been my only school district that I've worked for coming out of college with my teaching credential. I love my job at my school site, but every year I'm put through a job insecurity stress and forced to consider other options. Even putting 8 years of service, I'm still considered a low seniority member. Many after me have left already. Many neighboring districts have higher pay scales and lower housing rental rates. What hope is there for new teachers? Please make it a priority to use increased funding to maintain quality teachers and allow us to be able to live in an expensive area with the increased cost of living. Please show your support for stable schools and support excellent CUSD educators. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. So
that concludes our public comments not on the agenda.
Yeah, thank you. We are well within 20 minutes. Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I missed that earlier one. So we'll go to the consent. I'll repeat whatever I said earlier. We have an Apple item and a non-Apple item. 5.1 Apple item. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve item 5.1.
Second.
Yeah, thanks, Sylvia and Jerry. Can we do a roll call vote for that?
Yes. Trustee Lu?
Aye.
Trustee Cunningham?
Abstain.
Trustee Vogel?
Aye.
Trustee Leon?
Aye.
Trustee Madhato?
Aye. Thank you.
point of order. It's not an abstinence, I don't think.
Sorry,
No,
recusal.
request, yeah.
Abstain because of recusal.
Recuse.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was a
It's a
recusal, not an
recu-
abstain.
Typically,
But-
it's a recusal.
So you want me, on these roll calls, you want me to say recusal on that?
If you want to stand corrected.
One more time.
Then
Finna.
I'll stand corrected, recusal.
Okay, so, yeah, we have 4 yes
Second.
vote and yeah. No, you don't have to call it again. I
Okay.
think. Yeah, it's fine. I think as long as you're recording that.
Yes, we have it.
Thank you. So can we get from 5.2 onwards then?
I'll move 5.2 to 5.12.
Okay, thanks, Sylvia.
No, second.
Thanks, Phyllis. And can we do a roll call vote?
Trustee Lou,
Aye.
trustee Cunningham,
Aye.
trustee Vogel,
Aye.
trustee Leon,
Aye.
trustee Manhattan.
Aye. So I'll consent things are passed. So we are going for the information presentation, and first item is school updates. Before we get into the presentation, I would like to share, or I would like to read out a statement from the board here. Okay. So this is from the board again, and on behalf of the board, I am reading the statements here. The board's decision regarding Regnat and Mayor Halls came at the end of months of consideration and public input. While we understand that some of the community have strong feelings about this decision, reopening is not an option. The board approved the closing and consolidation of schools through a majority vote. Thank you. So can we go to the next, basically the presentation portion of it?
So tonight we are bringing back some updates. Leslie has been working with numerous teams and out in the community and our parent groups and our staff, really working forward towards that transition and starting to feel that real positive energy and some great feedback from our families and from our staff as we move through this transition. And so I'll turn it over to Leslie and to Mike.
All right. Well, thank you. Leslie and I have a presentation for you tonight that's, I'll just give you our focus areas. So we're going to talk about the, and this has to do with the consolidation and closures and kind of where we're at right now. We're going to talk about certificated and classified staff updates, parent leader connections, transition advisory team, and partnership work related to traffic. So I'm going to start off first. And as we work our way through the closure and the consolidation process, the things that I want to update you a little bit about tonight are where we're at with the certificated and classified employees. So we had, there were some movements that were made with some of the SDC programs. We talked to the SDC teachers individually and the IAs. They were all notified of the impending changes. So here's what changed. We moved 2 SDC classes at Lincoln Elementary, and they will be moved to Stevens Creek Elementary. We're moving 1 SDC class from Regnard Elementary School and 2 SDC classes at Meyerholtz Elementary School, and they will be moved to Garden Gate Elementary School. There'll be 3 SDC classes at Dilworth Elementary School, which will be moved to Sedgwick Elementary School. And the goal is, if all things run smoothly, the goal is that the IAs will move with the program, and this will be solidified here shortly. As far as our certificated priorities, we've just completed the consolidated priority transfer round 1, and that was in line with the MOU. The first round of priority transfers have received their new assignments for the 22-23 school year on Friday, March 4th. There were 34 certificated staff members from the closing schools that were able to select from 66 available vacancies. Now we're into round 2 of the consolidated priority transfer, and keeping in line with the MOU as well. The second round of priority transfers begin on Monday, March 7th, 2022. The certificated staff members will have until March 21st, 2022 to submit their request form from the available vacancy list. The assignments for the 22-23 school year will be given to the certificated staff members of this priority transfer 2 by March 28th, 2022. The intent is for all of the members from the all members affected by the closing and the consolidated schools. So any teacher that's moving from one of the closing schools and any teacher in a receiving school that's being moved due to the movement from the closing schools will be able to get into their workspace by July 1. This is way earlier than usual. We've worked with facilities and they're going to make this happen for us. And it's going to happen for the teachers. So we're trying to do everything we can to make the transition as smooth as possible. Each consolidated site principal will be working with the transition team, and Leslie will talk about that in a little bit, to help develop the new and combined culture and vision of the school. Since the board action, HR will be working with CSEA regarding the effects of layoff and reductions as outlined in Article 26 that took place on March 7th. So the employee notices will go out on or before March 15th to all the affected employees. And that's it for me. Any questions on that or anything? Do you want to wait till
Should we wait for the entire thing or you are okay to? Then you can break and do it also. You want to talk now?
I have a question, but I don't care when I ask it.
No, I think we can go ahead. Then I think it's better to, yeah. So should we go in the same order or Phyllis, you want to?
Go right
Okay. Jerry, you want- yeah.
All right, I guess the question, earlier we had a public comment about SEIU and the movement. And I was wondering if the administration, if you all could talk, double click on that for me, please.
Okay, so SEIU, we're following, the plan is to follow their contract and to do administrative moves. And so they were not noticed because nobody's losing a job. Nobody's losing any hours. If they're a daytime person, they'll go to a daytime job. If they're a nighttime person, they'll go to a nighttime job. So it's just a matter of, where the openings are and where you are in the seniority of those people that'll have to be moved. So we're going to talk about it. We haven't talked about it because there's no notices that had to be filed or anything like that. So
So the policy for them is different than say for CSEA? Or it sounds like they're
well,
different.
CSEA had to go through a layoff process.
Oh, and because of that.
Yeah, and SEIU, there's no layoffs. There's nothing like that. So we're just going through the administrative transfer process because there's going to be some openings and there's work for them during the day if they're a day shift and work for them if there's a night shift.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Jerry. Unless you want.
I have two questions. The first one is about the SDC teachers in those classes that are moving. I assume the teachers are moving as well as the instructional assistants with those.
Yes.
kids? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We met with each of them. And then we had a conference call with them on Zoom. We met with all the teachers and the principals of the closing schools and the principals of the receiving schools. So everybody was together and so it was no surprise for anyone.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure the teachers, assuming they're staying in the district, that are going to stay with their kids. So
Yeah.
that's good. And the second question is, you mentioned that the classrooms are going to be open to these moving teachers by 7/1.
Yes.
How is that going to happen at Blue Hills?
I'm sorry.
How is that going to happen at Blue Hills with the construction that's going on there? I assume there are kids and teachers that are going to be going to Blue Hills as a result of this change. So we
That's-
don't typically finish construction by July 1st.
Yeah, that's a great question. And all I can say is we've been working with Todd and working with Chris. And like I said, if all things fall into order, we'll be able to do that. We have to, be ready to shift if we can't. But for the most part, Todd said he's going to make it happen for us. So, I don't want to put Todd on the spot and make a promise, but that's what he told us. They'll work hard to get that done.
Thank you. That's it.
Thanks.
Satish, thank you.
I have a follow-up question about the SEC. It's not really about the staff as much about the students and their families. So I know it's not necessarily in this section or in like section, but I don't see it in another section of the presentation. So I'm just gonna go ahead and ask it.
Okay.
So I know that for the students of the schools that are consolidating, there's all these programs in terms of transitioning, meet and greets, open house, those kinds of things. Is there going to be a similar type of transition plan for the SDC students to those new schools?
I think you raise an important thing for us to consider. It's not been a conversation that we've had at an executive cabinet level because they're going to, I guess I would call different receiving schools. But I think what Allison and I can do is we can take that back to the schools that are receiving SDC programs and Jennifer Willis and talk about some of the things that we're doing at receiving school sites this spring in regards to parent copies, et cetera, invitations to community events and how we could potentially expand that at those locations. And I don't know if Allison, do you have anything else to add?
Just to say that was the first thing on Jennifer's mind when we started talking about this. I know she's already working closely with the school teams and thinking about other resources that we have as part of the county, such as the Inclusion Collaborative, to have that holistic view and make sure that it's a good experience.
Great, thank you.
Lori, you have some? Yeah, yeah.
Sorry. I don't have any questions that my colleagues didn't already ask in this section, so thank you.
Okay, so I have only one, I think again, SDC back. Is it these changes? I know that this must have got triggered because of the school consolidation, but I know that in past also, I think we were doing this kind of changes on SDC part, right? It's not necessarily, it is always in the same school. We move them, right? Or is it only the first time we are doing it kind of?
So the SDC classes have been moved previously, so it really is something that Jennifer and the special education department and Allison really look at. One, they look at the composition of the class because we don't have an SDC class necessarily at every campus. So they do try to, they have been moved in the past if it seems like the classes have shrunk or if the majority of the students come from a different area. So they have been moved in the past and it's kind of taken on an individual where how many students are enrolling in the class and where the needs are.
Okay. That's it. Yeah, thank you. Any more questions on this sections? Can we move to the next one then? Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. So I'm going to highlight some of the progress we've made since I think we talked about this about a month ago. Some of the meetings and the work that we've done in regards to consolidation and school closure. So if you want to go to the next slide. So one of the things that I wanted to highlight are some of the things that are being done in regards to parent leader connections. It actually is one of our breakout work groups for our transition advisory team, but some of the things that I think are important to note for the group and sort of call out separately from the slide that you'll see later is that it's interesting from the beginning when school consolidation and closure was announced. Our parent leaders at the school sites started inviting and connecting with each other. When we were not having visitors on campus, we had one school community invite any parent leader from any school site affected to come and meet them on the lawn just to begin to develop relationships. And so one, I want to thank our parent leaders because they are working so hard to take care of their families in regards to whatever kind of transition is happening, but to also embrace that sense of how do we build community and how do we celebrate the community that we're currently at. The other sort of amazing person that has really supported our schools that have PTAs along the way is Dawn Yang. Many of you that have been in the district or been in part of PTA, she was a Cupertino parent and works with the PTA. I call it a mothership, but the PTA council are the group that sort of guides our school parent leaders. And so from the beginning of the announcement, she's been reaching out and helping our parent leaders go step by step through the process when a school is closing. Because what happens is when a school closes, that PTA closes down, regardless of what ends up happening with the equipment, the assets, and or the money at the end of the day. And so she's working with them to discuss what their current funds are and how to spend them, or how to donate them to another organization should they have remaining funds at the end of the year. She's walking them through fiduciary agreements in regards to assets that they have collected or assets that they have and how to distribute them. She's also working with them in planning how do you, at the end of the year, if you have unspent funds, what are the rules and regulations around that? In addition to that, she will be helping our school sites that are receiving school sites that have PTAs. Not all of them are PTAs. Some are PTAs, some are PTOs, and some are home and school clubs. But those that actually do have parent-teacher associations, she will be walking them through the process of membership. How do we get new families involved before elections take place in the spring, and an election process throughout? And so that's come up in our transition advisory meeting. It's come up at the different school sites. And so she's just been a wealth of knowledge and expertise. And so she is being invited to the meetings that are happening right now to go over and fine tune, just to make sure that they are crossing their T's and dotting their I's along the way. And then in addition to that, some of the things in regards to parent leader connections that, have come forward is, inclusive messaging. And so how are our schools making sure that they are able to communicate to their current parents, but also the parents that are coming in? And so I'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like, which would include parent coffees. And then another thing has to do with just for our receiving school sites, messaging out to the new parent communities, who is who in the parent leadership. So who do I contact if I'm interested in the foundation at Lincoln or the PTA at Blue Hills? So where are we in the process? Next week, we will be having our third meeting. And one of the things is now that all of our teachers from round one have been placed. All but one teacher from our closing sites has been placed, and the teacher that was not placed, it was by choice. They wanted to wait for round two. And so it's a perfect time for our school sites, both the closing and receiving, to begin forming their transition advisory teams. So they will begin that process sometime this month. If we go to the next slide, I don't believe I shared this with you. I think the last time I shared the membership, we had some gaps in our membership. And so I did want to share that we have added 3 additional members. We have 2 teachers sitting on our membership team, and we also have one of our school secretaries. And if I've shared this already, I apologize for the repeat. The next slide. Just a reminder of our purpose. And as I shared, I believe at the last meeting before we launched our second meeting, that we were going to be doing a slight shift, and we would be focusing on engagement, specifically student engagement, parent engagement, and staff engagement. So our second meeting took some wonderful form, and our work groups came up with some great ideas to continue to build off of and expand on. So at our last meeting and going into our meeting next week, they are looking at engagement at the end of the year, summer experiences, beginning of the school year experiences, and then potentially looking at fall after the school year started, September and October. How does this group, or how do groups get together to find out what is still needed? Are there things that we missed? Are there ways that we need to adjust? Are there additional supports, or are there celebrations that we need to identify and acknowledge? So when they broke out into their work groups, we had one group that was focusing on student experiences. They began to brainstorm, what could that look like at the end of the year? What could it look like at the summer? What could it look like at the start of the year? We will focus our next meeting specifically on those end of the years, because end of the year, April through June, is right here on our doorstep. But what I wanted to share with some of these, and their list was way more extensive than this, so I tried to synthesize it. Dilworth has already launched a Caring Enrichment survey. We created it because there was community conversation about what the childcare needs would be on that campus. And so Stephen actually is going to be meeting with his entire next year school community. He's going to be inviting his entire next year school community. So next to a meeting next week, I believe, to share the data, to begin to have dialogue about the kinds of care needs, share the data, and also the enrichment needs so they can begin to do some planning. Our principals actually will all be visiting closing school sites to be there to greet and meet students that will be coming to their schools. So for example, on a day in April, Mr. Jackson at Regnart will be hosting Ann Mitchell and Ann Croft at lunch on the campus. So students who are on the campus and know that they're going to Blue Hills, they'll have an opportunity to meet Ann Mitchell informally, and they'll have an opportunity to meet Ann Croft informally. We'll be doing the same at Meyerholtz, and we'll be doing the same at Muir. So that's exciting. Spiritware purchases came up, and they have not really dug into that concept, but some of the school PTAs are considering as a closing opportunity for the school to order Spiritware or order yearbooks or do something that is sort of that memento, is that what the right word? The memento for students as they are leaving a school and joining another. And so Spiritware was one of the things that came up as a brainstorming. Now that we know where teachers will be going, there'll be an opportunity for the school sites that are closing for the administrators and teachers to be able to share with students where teachers will go, because we know that our students, as much as they would love for their teachers to come with them to the school that they're at, they were just worried that their teachers didn't have a place to go. And so now just knowing that they will have a new home will be exciting. The other thing is that our parent organizations, and we will provide a little bit of framing for them at our next meeting, but our parent organizations are beginning to plan what type of goodbye celebrations are important for the students that attend Regnart, Muir, and Meyerholtz. If we go to the next slide, staff experiences. So the work group that was staff experiences was comprised of our staff, and a lot of the conversation when they were doing brainstorming really had to do with what's happening April through June, and specifically focusing on opportunities in regards to student articulation, forming classes to ensure that there are balance within classes, and then opportunities for staff to visit their new sites, to be part of that conversation in regards to how are we going to reorganize our campus based on this increased growth. And then just, opportunities to plan together. And so at our meeting next week, our staff group will be looking at the articulation cards that are used across the schools that are affected. They'll be determining whether or not they feel like they need a common articulation card, or do the articulation cards have the components that are needed in order to create balanced classrooms? And then discussing how would that play out in May at a school site, and what would that May learning day be for our teachers that will be received at another school site. So more to come on that. And then our next group was our parent engagement group. We spent a lot of time talking about April through June. One of the big pieces was, how do we make sure that a principal at a receiving school is able to message their next year school families? They can message their current families, but how do they message their next year families? And so Erin and Pam helped create parent square groups. So for example, when Stephen next week or this week invites his families to come next week, he will be able to invite his current families and his new families through Parent Square, which is great. In addition to that, they will be able to host parent coffees. And one of the comments that was made by a parent is that, as much as I love to go to the parent coffees at my current site, and I will continue to do that because that's important, I'd love to be able to go to the new site so that I start to build and develop relationships at the school site where my child will go next year. And so principals will begin to extend invitations to a larger group. PTA membership I talked about, and then communication was something that came up, and then we'll need to dig a little bit deeper into and what the needs are in regards to communication. We have an FAQ that Erin continues to update in regards to things that are coming up as frequently asked questions. At our first meeting, we brainstormed, or the group brainstormed a ton of questions, and executive cabinet is just putting on the final touches to that document that can be made public. A lot of them were staff related questions, and so we will continue to work on that. Okay, so I'm going to switch to traffic, but I'm wondering, Satish, do you want to stop and ask questions on this before I get to the safe routes piece?
Correct.
Because
I think we
they're
can do that. Yeah.
okay.
So let's go in the same order then. Jerry, you have some?
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate the very detailed update here. Looks like this working group process is working out really well. Are you thinking of keeping that run? When are you thinking of disbanding these folks? It seems like it'd be great to have them, continuing to engage throughout, even through, the start of the year and beyond that. I was just wondering what the current thinking is on that.
Their commitment was for the 5 meetings this year.
Okay.
I agree that if that group feels there is a need to have an opportunity to look at how are we doing and sort of assess progress. One of the dads asked actually at the meeting, and he goes, how are we going to know we were successful?
Mm-hmm.
And so, one of my thoughts would be is at least trying to determine how do we hold a meeting in the fall to sort of be part of that check-in, and they can guide and advise as necessary.
Right.
So,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it seems to me the transition doesn't really end at the start of the school year, right? Because there are rituals that happen throughout the year. And I would almost, for me, in my mind, that transition really, could see that happening through the whole year. If there was any way folks could sign up for that, I think that'd be really helpful. So just this input. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. Unless do we have any?
I don't have any questions. Sounds like a really super thorough process. Thank you, Leslie. You're welcome.
Sylvia, anything?
No questions.
Okay, Lorraine.
I have a comment and a question. The first comment I want to make is just how outstanding this process is and how thankful I am for all of the committee members for their time and their effort. I don't think I've shared publicly, but my sister, my niece and nephew's school was also closed by another district this school year. And this is not the process that is going on in their district. There is nothing even close to this kind of transition planning that is taking place, nothing even close to this kind of welcome wagon that is being rolled out. And it's a very different experience for families in that district than families in ours. And I'm so thankful for all of the work and all of the effort that the committee is putting into our kids in a very difficult time for them personally, for many of them. So it just really speaks volumes about the way that everybody's stepping up to caretake for our students. So I also had a question about, so I just want to make sure I understand. So you mentioned that the class groupings for the affected sites are going to take place before summer. Is that right? Did I understand that?
Yes, the forming of groups, of classroom groups, potentially. And that's typical. That's pretty typical.
Right.
And then adjustments are made just based on change of student status, correct?
So that's was kind of going to be my question was, so I know typically they are made at those spring planning days, but then maybe they're not public till just right before school starts. So I'm sure there's a lot of care and thought going into stability, but just making sure that if whatever we're able to share, that we're doing so in a way that protects hard letdowns would be, or any potential for that would be great. And I'm sure you guys are being super careful with that. So I don't question that. It just, makes me want to make sure that we're just being as thoughtful as we can there. And then on the care and enrichment surveys piece, I wasn't clear, does that include, or is there a different process inclusive of making sure IEPs and 504s are being transitioned over and there's lots of good, robust communication going on between sites? about those handoffs for our kiddos that need more support?
Yeah, so I mean, that typically happens anyways through the articulation process, but there's an opportunity for our resource specialist teachers or our speech and language teachers. And that might be something that we want to think about for that May Learning Day, is if we know that students, we'll know where our students with IEPs are going. And could we, just like we're doing for just creating classes and looking at composition and balancing, could that be a good day for articulation in regards to IEPs? One of the things that is, Jennifer, she probably has not quite finished where people will be next year, where our extra staff, that staff will be. And so I think as we get closer to that date, that's when we will certainly need to make sure that we embed that into the work. Of course, our families at closing schools who have students with 504s and IEPs have talked about continuity and consistency for their students. Of course, they'd like their service provider to move with them. And I know that Jennifer is looking at, is there a way to maintain some consistency just based on the staff that she has? And so it's tricky. It's a pretty tricky puzzle.
Right. And then I guess the next level to that was, I feel like the work that's been done with sort of the CST process has also been so powerful. And so if there's a place to include, any of that work that we've done to identify kids that need more support and be thoughtful about, everything from the class groupings to making sure that that articulates over to, I think we've put so much effort into that process, and our teachers have just been amazing in identifying kiddos for support. And so it would be great if we make sure that there's a thoughtful plan ahead to make sure that we're doing as much to continue with that as we can, would be my request. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Lori. Then I think pretty much I echo everybody's opinion. And only I have one question. A good thing is that, you're taken care, different experience, all the stakeholders have been taken care here, like staff, teachers, staff, students, and the parents. Only one thing on the parent side, if you take it, because definitely, in the initial side is pretty good, like April to June, in the transition time. But maybe if you go to that August side also, I think it's very important. That's a transition once they get into the new place, how it could be. So probably we should do a little bit more on brainstorming how the experience can be the best, right? They shouldn't be really having a trouble. It should be a seamless transition for them, right? So we should look into a little bit.
So the reason why this is the 2 columns and here are blank is because this is our working document, or our notes from our working document. And our parent group spent a lot of time just talking about the here and now. We had about 30 minutes to brainstorm, and we really just stuck and we're very focused on April to June. At our next meeting, we'll talk about the things that have been done. A lot of what they brainstormed for April to June is either done or in progress. And so we'll do a quick what's missing, and then we will start planning what does this look like in summer and August.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's really good. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So can we go to the next slides then?
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah.
So at one of the board meetings, there was a request to bring back some information in regards to our partnership and work related to traffic. And so tonight I'm going to highlight the work that we've been doing with the city of Cupertino and our most recent work with the city of San Jose. I wanted to highlight these 2 because as we're looking at school consolidation and closure, those are the areas that we are seeing we will see some shifts in patterns of traffic. And so, I've commented before that, we have quite a strong relationship with the city of Cupertino and Safe Routes to School, both Cherie and David Stillman. At any point in time when we have a desire to do traffic observations or have conversations about mapping, they are ready and willing to partner with us. We've had frequent meetings throughout the year. Some of them have involved Fremont Union High School District and Kennedy and Lincoln, for example. We just had a meeting that was focused on Lincoln specifically. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, Polly Bovey and Stacy met with the city of Cupertino to talk about crossing guards and crossing guard needs. And there was a discussion about our desire to ensure that in areas where we are seeing some shifts, that if the city is not able to support crossing guards, that we as two districts feel that it is something that we will be interested in having a conversation with about our contribution as we look at the effects of the changes that have taken place in Cupertino. So most recently, we have continued to have conversations about just the Lincoln, Kennedy, Monte Vista area. That is the area that's probably most concerning. We've heard it from our community in regards to school campus closures. And so what we've done is we've gone and we've revisited with the city the walk audit recommendations at Lincoln and actually also at Kennedy. We have had discussions about the parking area and the recommendations, and I'll go into a little bit more detail as we look at some maps, and also the Hyannisport and Fort Baker area. It was interesting at our walk last week. We had a parent from Ragnart that walked with us, which was fabulous because we were able to get her perspective in regards to how families will be coming from Ragnart to get to Lincoln. Her biggest concern was the Hyannisport and Fort Baker area because she does not believe that the families will go in front of Kennedy and turn to go down to Lincoln, that they will probably drop off in the Hyannisport, Fort Baker area. And so we have some plans in place and some commitments from the city in regards to some ability to park sort of the 30-minute parking zone that is not in front of a person's house, but across the street from the house, so it wouldn't affect the community. So that's pretty exciting. We are in the process of, or actually I should say, Mahmoud and his amazing team has finished doing some heat mapping for us. So we're able to see what the consolidation choices are at which schools and when it is overlapped with the school that they are going to be received at. And so the heat maps will be shared with the city of Cupertino and the city of San Jose to help us begin to look at safe routes, to look at suggested routes, and then to be able to think about mitigation or any kinds of changes from a city perspective or a district perspective. In addition, so that's really our work with Cupertino. To be honest with you, it really bleeds into the work that we're started with San Jose. This week, really exciting. I've been working to get together a meeting with the city of San Jose since the beginning of the year. They wanted to wait until we knew what our numbers would be. And so actually 2 members from Vice Mayor Chappie Jones' office came, which was super amazing. We had 2 engineers and we had their safe routes to school lead, which is like Cherie for City of Cupertino. And so they gave us a lot of suggestions to think about in regards to things that we potentially as a district could do to mitigate some of the challenges with the increased enrollment at Dilworth. So I will be meeting with Stephen next week to just begin discussing that. We'll also need to, as a district, look at the start and end times of Dilworth, of Miller, and of Lynbrook, because as we know, the high school start times will be shifting to 8:30 across the board in the Fremont Union High School District. One of our next steps after the meeting is that the engineers will be reviewing the data on our heat maps in the city of San Jose. Similar to the work that we've done with the city of Cupertino, where they've come out and they've watched the traffic and walked the campus and looked at areas where we could potentially change on city property or district property. Following their review of the heat maps, they're going to begin thinking about what are the routes do they anticipate our families from the closing school sites will use. Of course, we don't know what they're going to use until it actually, the school has opened in the fall, but they're going to make some predictions. They're going to watch the flow of the current traffic and the conditions at Dilworth and make some suggestions. They were pulling up maps during our meeting and have some suggestions that they'd like us to consider. So when we have that meeting, we'll invite Chris's team to walk along with us. So there were a variety of things that they had mentioned in regards to parking, potentially changing configurations of the flow in and out. And so excited about that. One of the things that I felt really optimistic about is they felt that before the end of this school year, they would be able to review the maps, they would be able to walk the campus. If there were things on the city street in regards to unloading zones, parking, striping, et cetera, that they would be able to accomplish that before the fall, which was very exciting. And they have a big mapping project that they will be doing involving community. We've done that before in the city of Sunnyvale. They will start that in the fall. And so what I asked them to do is to prioritize Dilworth as a school, because that would be a great way to bring the community together in an activity together. But in addition to that, before that date, to be able to provide us with some suggested routes on a map, but not to be that final map that they'll be doing with an organization in the fall. So then I just wanted to highlight some of the things in regards to the walk audit. So Cupertino has mentioned that in 2016-17, they did a walk audit of our 14 schools. They identified 220 items or recommendations. 171 of them were identified as city work. It involves signage, striping, lighting, concrete work, crossing guard requests, and needs. In your update that I'll be sending you, or Stacy sends you on Friday, I will send you a link to their walk audit, and you can see what's been formally completed across all of our 14 school sites, what would be school site responsibilities, and what are items that are pending on the city site. You'll also be able to see the maps. So today I'm going to show you 2 maps, but you would be able to see maps for all Cupertino schools. So if you go to the next slide, what I did here was just a collection of pictures that the city gave me that shows some of the things that were updated or modified based on the walk audit. And so we've got yield lines and flexible posts and ballards, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is just highlighting some of their fabulous work around our schools in the city of Cupertino. And then if we go to the next slide. So this is really, really hard to see. Pam Durham was looking at it today and she's like, they're not going to be able to see it. So again, the link that you'll be provided in your weekend news will take you to a map that looks like this. You can see it a little bit bigger. But what each school where they did the walk audits, they presented the district with the recommendations. And this was from that 16-17 audit. This is the one that is Monte Vista and Lincoln, and because they share the same road, they blended them together. Most of the items on the on-street recommendations have been completed. The one that has not been completed is letter F, because letter F correlates to our item number 2. And so I'm going to just quickly explain that to you. If you're familiar with Lincoln Elementary School, at the front of the school, they have a long parking lot. They have an island, and then they have a small parking lot. If you have been in that area, right now, our start times and end times do intersect and collide with Monte Vista High School. There is not enough of a gap between start and end times to allow for Lincoln traffic to get in and out before Monte Vista's traffic gets in and out. One of the things that actually both cities recommended is that when we're looking at start and end times, we really need a 20 to 30 minute stagger in order to get people cleared out before the next group comes in. And so that is some work that we as an executive cabinet will start looking at start and end times based on Fremont's new times, and start a discussion of, are there places where we need to begin a community engagement process because of some potential start and end time shifts. Lincoln's one of those schools, and Kennedy that we'll need to explore a little bit more deeply. So in regards to, go back for one sec, in regards to the parking lot, one of the big recommendations from the city, and we've walked the campus multiple times, is to remove the, we're going to call it an island between the long drop off and the short drop off. The goal to that is if you were to remove the island, you would end it, and so that means you would close off the exit to the long and the entrance to the short. You'd make a continuous drop-off area that exits beyond the crosswalk. And so if you see here where Mahmood is, you'll go from the very left of the parking lot, you'll go through that island and then to the very end of the parking lot. Not only does it add additional parking spaces, it would help get some queuing off of the road. And in addition to that, it would allow the city to potentially be able to put another crosswalk where the current exit is to the long drop off. If you ever want to go walk that facility, and I can talk you through it, it's sort of, I'm a visual learner, I need to be there, but that's my high level explanation. This was presented to the district in 2016-17. At that point in time, there was, typically this kind of project is covered through a bond. At that point in time, it was around the time that the renovation of Lincoln was taking place, and it was just not something that was feasible with the funds that were allocated for the school renovation. And so, the Safe Routes to School Committee, or the group, and including David Stillman and engineers, still believe that this is a important consideration for our district. Currently, we do not have funds allocated for a project such as this, but it is something that we can certainly look at and explore. It would not, if we were to make the determination that we had funding for it, it probably would not be able to be completed by the fall anyways. And so it's something that we want to look at and continue to consider. We brought Chris and his team on board because the conversations about this were prior to Chris joining us. Jason Bocanegra has walked the campus. We know that it would involve some movement of irrigation, movement of electricity, potentially some sewage and drainage work. And so it's something that we will continue to look at and explore. One of the things that I would note, though, is one of the other biggest mitigations is looking at when do we start and end. And with a start and end time where we don't completely overlap start and end times with Monte Vista, that might be the shift that we need, especially if truly our Ragnarok families are not going to access the front entrance, the back entrance. So I think we have a lot to learn in the fall in regards to the traffic, issues. And then if we go to the next one, just really, really quickly, this is Kennedy Middle School. The only item on here that is district responsibility is item number 4. It just has to do with some widening of driveways and some signage. It is some of the work has been completed and some of the work is still under review by the district. The city is looking at what they could do in regards to ensuring that bikers are more safe when they are on Bub Road. And so they are going to be doing a spring pilot and sort of watch the behaviors of bikers and drivers with a biking pilot where they put some barriers, but they're not permanent barriers in front of the school to allow for a protected bike lane per se. One of the biggest concerns in that area is actually not really student behaviors, but parent behaviors, because they are doing U-turns in the middle of Bub, which then create obstacles for traffic to be able to move safely. Okay, so there we go. I think I'm done. Questions
Thank you.
or comments?
Good. I think we'll go the same way. order. Yeah.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead, Jerry.
First of all, thank you very much, Leslie. It's a very detailed report, and looking forward to something like this. We're really getting the meat of this here. Really just a number of comments. I think, first of all, the heat map, if we could get that on the Friday updates, I appreciate that also. In addition, I think you mentioned heat map of upcoming changes. So if we get that, that would be great. Just kind of dividing my comments, I guess. It looks like with San Jose, appreciate, really now getting connected with them. Or maybe this is a question, because I'm thinking we're kind of, getting close to the Ides of March here. And so, certainly seems like a lot more progress with Cupertino than there has been at San Jose. Do we have a timeline of sort of what we would like to happen in the coming months before August, before school opens at Dilworth, in terms of, I see on there, right, preliminary conversations, and it's March, and you had tons of ideas, and a lot of these sounded good from your discussion, but I'm worried about putting some of these ideas into action. And so, I don't know, half comment, half question. Do you have any sort of thoughts on
That
that?
was the conversation that we had this week when we spoke with the engineers and the city of San Jose. They actually said, thank you so much for being proactive and meeting with us earlier than most districts have done in the past. So that was exciting.
Okay.
Even though we've been trying all year. And part of it is they were really waiting for the numbers. The heat maps were sent to City of San Jose today. I'm not sure if they got them in the format they needed, because we had I basically gave the data, a screenshot of the data, so they couldn't zoom in and see exactly what residences. And so I want to make sure from the City of San Jose that what I gave them was sufficient. And if not, Mahmoud and I will work on how do we get them what they need. He said it wouldn't take him long to review that. And as soon as he reviewed it, we would set up a time to do a site walk. And the preliminary work that he thinks needs to happen, or the safe routes suggestions, could all be completed before the beginning of the school year. So it's not a concern. It's really just a matter of, I think, me making sure that I am continually reaching out to them. So I would anticipate a site walk probably the first week of April, not much later, which gives them a lot of leeway in order to, if they have to do any kind of striping or painting, etc., or if we need to do any kind of minor changes in regards to markings, turn signs, etc., that are on the district property.
All right, great. Yeah, no, I reached out to speak with both Mr. Kaufman and Mrs. Kropp on this, and certainly I think the situation at Dilworth is, I think, traffic-wise is better than Lincoln. So another thought would be, lots of things are being done here. I think at the end of the process, it'd be good if we could collect all that together, just sort of, to sort of share with the community what we've been able to do at both of these campuses to improve traffic. On the Cupertino side, particularly Lincoln, see a couple of thoughts here. Happy to see a lot of discussions around crossing guards. I guess I would sort of, like to add on to that and think about other ways to mitigate traffic around there other than crossing guards. And I'll give you some examples. So for instance, had a nice, really good conversation with Mrs. Kropp, and I asked her, what's something we can help you do? And one of the things she said that she's had to do sometimes is to sort of actually, so if you know the setup there, you have like westbound on McCollum, people making a left turn, right? And they have to wait for people going eastbound because they get a right turn and right away, and people get anxious. And so what happens is you have people trying to make turns when they're not supposed to. You have people backed up there, and it would be nice if there was someone who had the authority to be directing traffic a little bit. I'm sure she shared that with you. I just wanted to add a +1 to that. And that's not something crossing guards are trained to do. I'm not even sure what the legal things are, who's allowed to direct traffic out there, but that would be helpful.
Yeah, they can, crossing guards cannot direct traffic.
Right, and so
they can queue pedestrians, but they can't direct traffic. So it would have to be the public safety department.
Right, so that's something we could talk to the county about or the city about. So that's one. And then I think the other thing, I really like what you're talking about here in terms of having this extra parking space or drop-off space at Fort Baker and Hyannisport, right? Because I think the thing we have to do here is we have this hotspot that's all coming into the school at the same time. And so I think things that we can do to both spread things out spatially and temporally, right? So I remember a couple of years ago, one of the former Lincoln principals had done a homework club. And so homework club is really, I think had a better name, but it's basically someplace you go to do homework until your parents picked you up. And so what that did was it really spread out the pickup rather than being in a 15 or 30-minute time period. School lets help, and some of these kids go to these things. And so that helped to spread out the traffic in sort of a temporal way. And then in the same way that, I think we're talking about spreading out traffic south of Hannesport, if we do some of that north of the campus also, particularly what I'm thinking of Orange and Noonan, that's pretty much a drop-off spot by parents for both Monte Vista and Lincoln, whether or not we designate it as such. And so I think if there was some support from the city to kind of, because right now it is a zoo there, people are just doing all sorts of things. And so I think, so these are things we can't do ourselves, right? Because it's off campus. So I would just say, it's great to have crossing guards, but other things we could do to spread out the traffic time-wise and spatially, that'd be great. What you talked about with the loop there, the sort of combining the two sort of drop-offs, I'm happy to see that appear. I know that was something the city had talked about. I think even before we all got on the board here, never been able to do it. I thought when you started talking that they had offered to pay for it to do it, but maybe not. I know it's an expensive project, so.
We
oh,
did
well.
ask.
You did ask.
We asked.
Oh, well,
We
thank you.
asked,
Thank
and-
you for asking
yeah.
at least. So, all right. Well, thank you, Leslie. With that, those are my questions and comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.
No, just thank you. Nice thorough report. I share Jerry's concern, or maybe concern is a strong word, about the response from San Jose compared to the response from Cupertino. I think Cupertino has been excellent in responding, and I've had a lot of experience working with San Jose. So I don't think we should get our expectations too high there. I think they're a large city with a lot of school districts serve parts of San Jose. I think we're a low priority with them. So thanks for your good work, Leslie, but I think that we're probably going to get less support from them than we do from Cupertino. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I can get that up.
I don't know.
I
I dropped Sylvia's name in the meeting. No.
And I've actually, as a parent at Meyer Holtz, I've done the city walk, I've done the audits, and actually the one time that the engineer did come was great. But like Phyllis said, they're a huge city. They don't have like a walk person just for that area. It's a huge city and they're short staffed. So I actually think it's amazing that you got 2 engineers. So great
And
job.
2 members from
And
the
2 members
vice
from
mayor's
the-
office. I was blown away. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic.
I'm optimistic too. The fact that they've actually
go,
given
girl.
that much attention, I actually feel really good about that. Because I know, like Phyllis said, we tend to be more of a lower priority in such a large city. I just had one question I was curious about, because you had mentioned about the island at Lincoln, and then Bond, and not having, that it was on the bullet list, or maybe it got taken off the bullet list for the bond previously.
It was actually never on our bond list. So
It was never on the-
this recommendation came after the plans for Lincoln had been finalized, and I believe we'd already gone out to bid. I don't know, Chris, I don't even think you were here at the time.
I was here at the time when we
Yeah.
modernized thinking, but
Yeah.
I don't recall it being on the items.
It was,
to be done.
it was not on the items to be done. Yeah.
So help me understand in terms of what needs to go on a bond versus what can be done, for lack of a better word, in-house, I guess.
Right.
Because I'm thinking about some school campuses we know where, let's say, PTA or fundraisers or things like that will put in certain things like a lunch canopy or those kinds of things. Would this possibly be able to be part of that, or because it's concrete and ground, it has to be bond?
Well, these are what we're describing are technically site improvements. So anytime we change or add to the site itself. And so in this case, modifying the parking area or the drive-through area would all technically be a capital project, in this case of the district. So in our case, 9 times out of 10, all of our capital projects would fall under the bond program at some point in time. So it is critical to make sure that we highlight these things as we go through. And when we did our facility master plan, I'm presuming we also looked at it with the lens of how to address, pickup and drop off at all of our campuses. So I would venture to say that it would be covered. It would have been covered under that specific heading in our facility master plan.
But could it not be covered? I guess what I'm trying to see is I get that it's typically under a bond. I'm just.
Well,
trying to
maybe
see what
is
the other
your
options are.
is the question about can we find funding to do it if we don't have a bond? Maybe.
Yes, or I guess what are the parameters in which there can be fundraising or things like that? Just because I know the parent community likes to be able to participate, but I don't know if there's restrictions in terms of things that they are or aren't allowed to.
I mean, as far as funding a project like this, it's either going to be funded through the district's general fund, through its routine maintenance, or it falls typically under either deferred maintenance or, in this case, capital improvements, which would be technically our bond program. So again, school districts can fund this however they want to. It's not restricted, but most of the time districts do these types of projects under the auspice of a bond program.
Okay.
Yeah, I think one of the pieces to look at would be a cost of a project such as this. And so, the simple response would be we could cover the cost whether we went out for a bond or not, but because of the amount of the cost,
Right.
typically it would be something that could be covered under the bond.
Well, and I'm also thinking in terms of bonds, there tends to be like an order in which they're done and it's based on different kinds of needs. And so something like this, I don't know if it would necessarily be at the top in terms of like the entire district and all the different campuses, but so I'm just trying to see what the different options are or understand what the different options are.
We are looking at getting some pricing, and I think staff's estimate is somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000 perhaps. So, but we're trying to get some current pricing on it.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
So on the map that's up now, I think Jerry already sort of hit on it with the question about actually getting perhaps some help from the city or whoever it is that would be authorized to do some traffic direction. But I'm wondering if Anne had any thoughts for you about even just having like a second, a lot of our schools do some sort of morning drop-off program, monitors to help move a traffic line through faster. Is there any possibility of like needing to start a second traffic line back there in the back at the, what is it? I think it's off of Hyannisport when you turn onto Fort Baker.
Yeah, we actually talked about when both of us were at Stockholmeyer, we were trying to encourage, was at the highest enrollment, and we were trying to encourage families to come across the park. And so there was a path that was created and it was named a Panda Path. And we had students and parents that were there that were greeting kids and shuffling them along the path as they came to school. And so we did talk about sort of having that greeting zone back there and looking at what do we need to do to make sure there's one of the items on here is to make sure that it's ADA accessible, because there is a ballard that would be hard to get around if you were maneuvering a wheelchair of some sort. And so it is a conversation that she and I have had. Yeah. Okay. And they have the front of the school. They do have patrol. They have adults and kids that are helping kids get in and out. The challenge is we would have to have a staff member at the back because where kids would be dropped off there if parents didn't park, it is actually not district property. And so there, we would not be able to leave students unattended. It would probably be better to be manned by adults rather than students at the front of the school.
Okay, I think I got it. So you're saying the area back at Fort Baker and Hyannisport isn't district property? Is it FUHSD property there where you go
So
into?
the pathway, I think, is shared property, but right where the kids are going to be dropping off is actually not. So when they come to the front of the Lincoln School and the parents drive into the driveway, they're on district property.
Sure.
At the back of the school where they would be dropping off, it's just a residential area, it's city property. And so we would not want to leave students out at the back of the school helping open doors and
Got it.
cue people along, certainly without adult.
That would be where the parent volunteers might need to go. Okay, so
Correct.
so the path that goes there between sort of right along Monte Vista and into the back corner of Lincoln, that's shared district property, but you're saying the actual curb on
I'm
Fort Baker with the sidewalk is
I'm not sure who owns that path.
Okay.
Once you get to the Ballard, that's, I know, becomes Cupertino, our own property, our
Okay.
Lincoln property. Do you know who owns that path?
No, I know.
We can look into it. Yeah.
okay. It might be like that funky path over at CMS that they had to spend 3 months researching who owned it. Yeah. All right. And then with San Jose, and this may be too early in this process, but I'm wondering if you're in your meeting with all of the attendees that showed up for that, did the subject of one of the things that we as a school district bring to the table is maybe not funding to help with some of these infrastructure projects, but we increase the scoring for grant funding on infrastructure projects significantly. And so I'm wondering if San Jose and or the county Measure B funds, if there's existing grants that we can sort of be the double down on increasing the point scoring for any grant funding that's coming up. And if so, what advocacy work we might need to do to set ourselves up for that. Because I know there are going to be needs there in San Jose. And I know we learned from, the Homestead Corridor project that the way we got the Measure B grant funding for that was because the school districts and the fact that it was a safe route is a huge point scorer for the grant funding. So just a thought.
It did not come up, but I've written it down. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay,
That's it. Was it?
that's it.
Okay.
Thanks,
you.
Satish.
Okay. So a couple of things I think where Sylvia stopped, probably I will ask there. So I think I feel that probably this is definitely a priority project. I don't know whether it should come from general fund or the bond. And since you're asking again, we have to get an estimate. Let's see that is there any possibility to get it done. That's one thing, right? Irrespective of the type and how it is going to take it. Let's see that it's doable or not, right? That's one thing. Second part is the crossing guards. I know that Jerry was saying that probably that may not help, but my question is just the other side of it, is it now you're telling that there are some constraints like who will pay for them kind of things between the city and us, or is there some confusion on that, or what is stopping us? Is it the money portion or who owns it?
Right. So the Crossing Guard program in Cupertino is currently funded by the city of Cupertino. They have, I want to say they said, I forget now how many. I wanted to say 14 to 16 crossing guards. They do have all positions fully staffed. Each year they look at, based on their audits, where they're going to do shifting of crossing guards. Actually, David was mentioning that he feels that there are sufficient crossing guards on Bub. In the span that we have and where the crosswalks are, there are actually 3 crossing guards that support safe routes for students. But they will continue to look at that and engage in a dialogue with Cupertino and Fremont Union High School District if there is a need to increase and they do not have the budget for that. And I don't know, Stacy, if you want to add anything more to that.
No, I said, I think in the past, there hasn't always been the as far as looking at the support for the crossing guards just within our own district, but really, as Polly and I were talking, it is an important piece for us, and to pay a small contribution, it does feel like it gives us a little bit more flexibility. There was a flexibility that if we needed to shift a crossing guard. And so, I think it does play into our partnership with the city really well.
Okay. So now I was wondering that, at least for temporarily, a lot of stuff probably may not happen by end of the year, right? It may fall into the probably following year or even further, the way which we are talking some other things. Just let's take Bub, for example, or even the San Jose, if it is getting delayed. Is it possible for us to get probably for a temporary, what I mean is like for definite period, like a year or half year, whatever it is, that what the time what we are missing, whether we will be able to hire something and we'll be able to look into the financing part of it, the cost of it.
Well, and I think that was really part of the conversation with Cupertino is, there's the unknowns. We think we know where we need the crossing guards, but could we have that flexibility within the first month if we needed an extra one or if we needed to shift? And so again, they feel like they have the capacity to do that. So it really will be during that first month reassessing do we need to add an additional one? Do we need to shift any of them? So I think part of that is going to be looking at those trends that come up.
Thank you. And the last one is like, I know, I think it's great, lot of good information, Leslie, but I think, would you be able to tell us some point of time that what is not going to happen this year kind of thing in this, right? Like a lot of stuff is happening, and I know that you're trying hard to get things by July or at least by September or end of, or August kind of time frame. But some of the things like probably may not be completed, or potentially it'll eat up next year and so on, right? So something of that kind, if we can share that, that'll be great. Then we can at least look into what's highest in that, and is there a way for us to get some support in-house or with a partnership or?
Okay. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Then any other comments within the board?
I just have one more quick
Yes,
question.
yes.
Sorry, on
Yeah, yeah,
redirect. When Chris, this is directed at you. When we finished the Blue Hills project, that's the last of our promise to the voters, right, on that bond? So is there any chance that there's going to be any money left in the bond fund to contribute to any of these things that we want to do, or are we going to exhaust it with Blue Hills?
I think it's early to know whether or not we'll have any monies left over at the completion of the project. There's always a little bit of contingencies within the Blue Hills. So if assuming that there aren't any unforeseen things, we could have some extra funding, but I don't want to assume anything at this point.
Right, right. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Phyllis. Anything else, Sylvia? Yeah, Laura, okay, then can we go to public comments then?
Yes, we have 2 public comments on this agenda item. Kui Wang Dong, if you could please raise your hand, and Deborah Lucan, if you could please raise your hand. Deborah Lucan, if you could please raise your hand.
Okay, I think they can send us comments actually, and we will read it later. But, we'll move on then. We'll go to the next item. Right. 6.2 surplus property 7-Eleven committee update.
So this says we have now completed 3 of our 7-Eleven committee meetings. And so Chris and I believe the chairperson will give a brief overview.
Yeah, yes, good evening. Actually, I'll just introduce our chairperson, Richard Lowenthal. Richard, would you like to come forward and talk with the board here?
Sure would. I'm going to make sure you can see me. And so do we have the slide presentation to put up that came from the committee? It should have been uploaded to, there you go. Thank you very much to the board and to the council. We appreciate that time here. My name is Richard Lowenthal. I chair the 7-Eleven committee to work on the disposition of the Meyerholtz, Regnart, and Montebello sites. I just want to give a progress report. We have met 3 times. I want to talk about where we are in the process and invite any questions or comments from you. First of all, we've established what our mission is, which is to come up with a list of possible uses for the 3 sites and submit it to you for your decision on how to move forward with those sites. I think the most important thing to take out of that mission is that with regard to Montebello, we are only looking on how to dispose of the site. So most likely the sale of the site or exchange for something else of value to the district. In the case of Meyerholtz and Regnart, we are not considering disposing of the site, only some use either by the district or declaring the properties in part surplus or whole surplus, and basically leasing them out. And the goal, you can see down, looking down below a little bit at item 4, is basically to generate the most possible revenue for the district. You know, obviously it has to be legal, it has to be practical, it has to work. But other than that, it's we're to optimize revenue to the district. If you get back the slide up a little bit, I'll just, you know, we covered, we looked into what is at each site. As we were required to in a 7-Eleven committee, we review enrollment data, but not in terms of challenging the decision to close the 2 campuses. Moving down to item 5, one of the possibilities is that in part the properties are not considered surplus, and in fact that we use them for district purposes. One, you know, we're looking at the possibility, for instance, of having the district office stop leasing property and instead use one of the 2 sites, that either the Regnart site or Meyerholt site. And so we've done some analysis of the needs for the district office, and there's also a need for a central kitchen. So we're going to take that into account as possible non-surplus uses for the 2 properties. Item 6, we looked at the encumbrances on the properties. Regnart has some encumbrance in that we have a contract with the city of Cupertino. It has specific ways to terminate that contract or continue with it. It's basically an arrangement we have where the city maintains the open space at Regnart, and in return the city gets to use Regnart during certain periods of the day. If we choose to lease out that property, we have to deal with the implications of that agreement with the city of Cupertino, but we're prepared to do that, and we'll advise you as to the implications of the current agreement with the city of Cupertino. Next, down to item 7, we've looked at the zoning of the properties. It's somewhat unexpected what the zoning is. Regnart is zoned for public purposes, and so that one is fairly straightforward, but it does, for instance, in our first blush analysis, say that there are, we couldn't use it for retail purposes. Somebody has inquired as to using it for a retail purpose. We don't think that's appropriate, but we will go through that in more detail. Similarly, the Meyerholt site is, interestingly enough, zoned as R1, that is residential housing, 8 houses per acre. It turns out when a property is owned by a school or a school district, then you have broad authority to use it for education purposes. But if we don't use it for education purposes, we have to then look at its appropriate zoning to be sure that it's a legally permitted use. So we'll be analyzing all of that. I want to mention one other thing on Montebello, which is Montebello has been declared by the County of Santa Clara as a historic site. So we have to investigate the implications of that for selling the property. That is, does it have to carry that historic site designation with it, which would limit the possible buyers of the property. And we're seeing if, now that it's not a school, if we might, for instance, abandon the historic site designation, or if we should just use it to the buyer, leave it to the buyer to deal with that. Item 8, in every meeting, we ask for community input. This is a Brown Act meeting. We invite the community to come and speak on any topic they wish, or of course on any agenda item. And what we are developing is a board recommendation. And we're working away on that. We've met 3 times. We've got 2 more meetings scheduled. If we need more meetings, we will schedule them as necessary. So that's my report. Have you any questions, or Chris, did you want to add anything?
I don't have anything to add, but thank you, Richard. But we'll entertain questions or comments from the board.
Yeah, thanks, Richard, and thanks, Chris. Jerry.
All right. Okay. So first of all, thank you, Richard, for the report here and for the committee's work. My question is around the zoning for Meyer Holtz. So I guess we're fortunate to have you as a chairperson with your background as a council member and mayor for this city of Cupertino.
Thank you.
So you mentioned that. So first, I was surprised that Meyer Holtz was zone R1. I didn't think you could do that, but okay. Given that you mentioned something about it can only be for education uses. So does that include we could lease it to someone who uses it for education and that would be okay? Or does it have to be education under the auspices of a public agency? Do we know that at this point?
Yes, we can, it can be used for other purposes. When we use it for education purposes, we have a broad array of uses. For instance, we could put the kitchen there, we could put the district office there. But if we use it for non-education purposes, we think there's implications from the zoning. So that's what we'll dig into to be sure that whatever we recommend as a use to you will be compliant with the zoning.
Okay.
But as long as we use it for education, even private education, we have we're not subject to residential zoning. We're subject to this state's school architect.
Oh, got it. Okay, that makes sense. All right, thank you. That's it.
Thanks, Jerry.
So thank you again, also, Richard, for chairing this committee and being willing to serve and help the district. I appreciate it. I think we all
We're happy
do.
to do that.
But my question is a follow-up on Jerry's. So when we talk about education purposes, these are things like dance studios and tutoring programs and private schools and that kind of stuff we could lease to those people under the current zoning?
We can
great.
under the broad range of educational purposes that leaves it under the state architect. So we can do that. We could also use it for housing, but it would be, we would have to establish what portion of the property or whatever we use for housing. It turns out there's also a little nuance there that if we used it, for example, as has been done in Santa Clara for workplace housing, that's still an education purpose. So we have broad authority there.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Satish.
Thanks for that. Anything, Sylvia?
No questions.
Sorry.
So you mentioned the Montebello property. Hi, Richard. Good evening, and thank you so much. You mentioned the Montebello property and the zoning as historic. Has the committee had any sort of presentation on that? And when was that done? Was it still done when it was operating as a school? Was it done at the time that the school was closed?
We're just doing that investigation now. And in fact, Chris will be following up with the county executive about what flexibility we have with that designation as a historic property. We don't even know, for instance, if it was designated that because of its use or because of the property itself. So we have just uncovered that issue in our most recent meeting and are digging into it now.
And if I haven't read about this in a long time, but if I'm remembering right, I guess my question might be that I would pose out there would be, is it different if the property is zoned historic versus the buildings are zoned historic? And I'd love to learn more at your next report about that.
We will. We're digging into that now. There's a possibility that since it's no longer operated as a school, that designation is not appropriate. So that would be, in my view, the best outcome, because we would like the property not be heavily encumbered when we attempt to market it.
Sure. Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thanks, Lori. Thanks, Richard. I have only one question here. Does it, the scope of the 7-Eleven committee, does it include the potential lease, the parties who could be leasing it? Would it come through the 7-Eleven committee, or is it a separate thing? You just suggest it, and after that, or who does that? Yeah.
Okay, good. That's a good question. No, we will determine sort of the best uses for the property, and we'll prioritize a list of best uses for the property, but the picking of tenants is up to the board, generally in closed session, since it involves contracts. So we will only be establishing ranges of good uses, in our opinion, that will generate the most profit for the district.
Thanks. I appreciate. Any other comment? Yeah.
Actually, just one more. So about Regnar, I just wanted to make sure. So the current zoning then with public building a zone BA, does that mean we have to get a rezone before we can lease it out, or no?
No, we can use it for instance, private school activities and or any other educational activity under the state architect, and that's what we expect to do. Because changing zoning, I would estimate, would take us a year. So we're not going to pursue changing zoning in order to get this property generating some profit.
Okay, and then from a lease standpoint, is there a difference between being zone BA versus R18? Is one more restrictive than the other, or is it pretty much similar?
So I think it's a little early for me to comment on that. You know, we've looked at people who have been inquiring and the types of uses that people have been inquiring about. And the only one that we think we couldn't accommodate on those two sites is sort of retail use. There was a realtor who was interested in leasing part of the properties, and we don't think that would fit into the current zoning. But other things of, you know, there've been a wide range of educational services like tutoring services, counseling services, private schools, music schools. All of those seem to fit into what we could do with the property today.
Okay, great. Sorry, this is sounding like a city council meeting now. Just
okay.
one last one. So in terms of office, then neither of these we wouldn't be able to rent them out as offices.
That's our first blush opinion. You know, before we make that final decision with you, we'll do a legal analysis. We have legal staff involved in our committee in every meeting, and so we'll be ferreting that out. We haven't made a final decision, for instance, on whether this realtor could use the space, but our first blush decision is no. So we will get legal opinions on these kind of issues.
All right, terrific. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. Anyone else? Okay, so do we have a public comment on this?
We have one public comment on this item.
Okay.
Stephen Lee, if you could please raise your hand. Go ahead.
You're muted, Stephen.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I highly suggest that about the using the milestones land, and I suggest that can, committee, put, the office and the central kitchen in a milestones, and keep half of the milestones be a small size school. Because, some kids, they really need a space to have a small, class size to learn. So I think I think a move office to and the central kitchen to my house will be a really good idea. And also we need to think about the central kitchen. If the central kitchen, they need to have, the food grocery need to have a big truck to move in, to ship in. So I think my house will be really good location. And also keep half of the land for school use. That will be, I think will be, for some kids have learning, issue. I think that will be perfect fit for a small size school. Not all the kids were good in large size school learning. They are just elementary school kids. They are not middle school students. They are not high school students. They are not good fit in the, some kids are not good fit in a big, crowded environment. So please think about it. And also I have comment that, for the school board, for during the 7-11 meeting, some people keep saying the land belongs to the board, belongs to school district. I think that is belongs to community, not for just for school board.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the comments. We'll take them into account.
Any more, Aaron, then?
There
Can
are
we
no
move?
other public comments on this item.
Can we move on to the next one then? Yep, so we'll go to the 6.3 developer fee 5-year report.
And
Chris?
thank you again, Richard.
Oh, you're welcome.
So this next item is a routine item that we bring back to the board every so often. Related to our developer fees, we have a requirement to provide a 5-year outlook in terms of how we spend down our developer fees and how much developer fee revenues we generate. And as you can tell from the document here, we estimate that we receive about $700,000 a year in developer impact fees, and we spend a little over $300,000 per year. And as you notice that the expenditures have been pretty consistent, and the expenditures represent the modular classrooms that we have been leasing for many years. It is something that I have an interest in trying to get out from underneath these leases. I believe we've been paying these leases for some time now, but this is how we are currently spending our developer fee monies to lease the portables that we don't currently own. And this maybe provides some context. These portables that we've been leasing probably date back to when we actually implemented class size reduction back in the early 90s. So anyway, tonight is the reoccurring report that we have a requirement to provide to you and for the public.
Thanks, Chris. Questions? Yes, there.
All right, thanks. I was just wondering, do these revenue projections include some of these upcoming projects in Cupertino, like Westport?
No, this doesn't factor anything like that in here at this time.
So when do developer fees from those projects come into the projections here?
Well, we will add those additional projects once they're known and once we get them on the schedule.
Okay. All right. They just held a groundbreaking ceremony, so I'm guessing they're starting to build it now. So thanks. And no more
Thanks,
questions.
Jerry.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chris, you mentioned that you are hoping we can get out from under these modular leases. So are you proposing then that we would purchase modulars instead? Is that, I mean, we're going to need the modulars, right?
Well, we'll need the classrooms. What I'm hoping to do is get out from under the lease and eventually own these facilities.
Okay.
And so longer range, this would dovetail into that conversation of about a future bond.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks.
Satish.
Sylvia?
I had the same question as Phyllis. Thanks.
Thanks, Gloria.
I had the same question as Jerry, so there we go.
No other questions.
No, just I was curious about when we would start seeing developer fees from the major projects that are coming up, so.
Okay,
Great,
thank
thank
you.
you.
I don't have anything either. So any public comments here?
There are no public comments on this agenda
Okay,
item.
thank you. Then let's move on to the next one. So now we are getting into the discussion items, 7.1. Who's going to talk? Election.
So this 2022 is election year, and so we do bring back forward what our protocol and process is with our board policies for our board election. For the 2022 year, we will have 3 seats open. We do an at-large election, and so have brought forth what we have used in the past to review the potential resolution that we can put forward and move forward. So this really is a discussion. If there's any changes that you would recommend to make. Again, we have our board policy. It's 9220, outlines the process, really does highlight the maximum length of the candidate statement that we do at large, the assignment of the cost and the printing. So it's just really a review that we can use as our potential candidates and those interested in being potential board members can follow.
Okay, and one question before we get in for the discussion. Is it like this resolution, should we be making it, or it will come as an action later?
This resolution, we actually, it's almost identical to what we've used in the past. We run it by the ROB and our legal to see if there's anything that we need to change. And so there are no recommendations for changes. We would bring it back as an action item to actually approve at the next board meeting if there are no changes.
Okay, Thank you. Any questions, comments?
I have no questions and I would support this resolution coming back on consent.
Okay, great. Phyllis,
Same here, back on consent.
okay. Sylvia, anything you have comment?
Yeah, I'm okay with the
Okay.
proposed.
Thank you, Sylvia. Anything, Laurie?
Yeah, fine on the proposed resolution, fine with it coming back on consent if that's appropriate. I would raise that I think it would be helpful probably for the community if we put some dates out as to when we might be hosting information sessions and just share those so that people can get them on their calendar if they are so inclined.
Great. We will do that. And I will be seeking some volunteers from you that would like to
Mm-hmm.
join me in those information meetings.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. Okay, thanks, Laurie. Then, yeah, I think I support the same way. Like, I don't see any, yeah, well, we can bring it as a consent then.
Great.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Any
Any public comment here? Yeah.
There are no public comments on this
Okay.
item.
Okay, thank you. And then, let us go back. I'm switching between the,
Atish, can I have a
Yes.
point of personal privilege? Could we take a very quick break before?
oh,
we
yeah,
go?
yeah, before the action. Okay, is it okay? Like, we'll take 5 minutes break then? Yeah, or, yeah.
Okay. I don't even need 5 minutes. Just
No, I
take a
think it's
break.
okay. I think all of us can take, right? That's better. Yeah, so we'll come back in 5 minutes then.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll go to section 8. Action items 8.1, approval for the second interim financial report. Chris.
So no presentation on this item. It is just
Okay.
returning back from previous, we had shared at the special board meeting. And so tonight we're just bringing it back for approval.
Yeah, can we get a motion then first?
I move to approve the second interim financial report for the 2021-22 fiscal year.
Okay, and the second, please.
A second.
Okay, thanks, Sylvia and Jerry. So any more discussion we need here, or should we go for? Yeah, any of you have any comments? Okay, then okay, shall we go for a roll call vote?
You want to do public comment?
Oh, yeah,
first?
public comment then before that. Okay.
We have one public comment. Joyce Fisher, if you could please raise your hand.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joyce.
Actually, I will not speak right now. I already spoke earlier. Thank you.
Thanks, Joyce. Okay, if that's the case, then shall we go for a voting here?
Trustee Lou,
Aye.
trustee Cunningham,
Aye.
trustee Vogel,
Aye.
trustee Leong,
Aye.
trustee Manhato,
Aye. So the motion passed. Then let's go for 8.2.
And this is another item that we had brought back as information or brought forward as information and are now bringing back to take action on.
Okay. Let's again have a motion for this.
I move.
Thanks, Phyllis. We need a second.
A second.
Thanks, Sylvia. Then any discussion needed here? Good enough. Okay, any public comments then?
There are no public comments.
Okay, then shall we go for a vote here?
Trustee Lou,
Aye.
trustee Cunningham,
Aye.
trustee Vogel,
Aye.
trustee Leong,
Aye.
trustee Manhato,
Aye. So the motion passed 5-0. Okay, again, now 8.3, pretty much similar. No presentation, right?
No
Nothing.
presentation.
Okay,
again, just
so we
bringing
need
back.
a motion then here.
I move.
Okay, thanks, Phyllis.
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, Laurie. And any discussion needed? Any public comments?
no, there are not.
Okay, then can we go for a voting?
Trustee Lou,
Aye.
trustee Cunningham,
Aye.
trustee Vogel,
Aye.
trustee Leong,
Aye.
trustee Manhato,
Aye. So the motion carried 5-0. So the next one is the board activity 9.1. Anything anybody wants, like same order or anything there? Jerry?
Sure. Well, I'm going to be out of town at our next board meeting, so I'll be joining y'all via Zoom.
Thanks for letting us.
I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Nothing. Okay.
Good, this one.
You
Mhm.
first time Glory does not have it. Typically, you
No.
have a lot
No,
going on.
they haven't had any meetings to report out on. so.
Okay, okay, thank you. Okay, I don't have anything either. Right, so then let's move into the agenda setting 10.1. Anybody has anything specific? Okay. Oh, yes.
I do. So I would like to address the letter that I think we've all been made aware of, which one of our local city councils has agendized for discussion action at their council meeting next Tuesday. I would like to ask our staff to make a determination on if we need a closed session with legal, or if you can proceed on our behalf to determine our course of action in response. I feel that it is appalling that any of our 6 cities would entertain introducing alternative facts in direct contradiction with the public record of this board for more than 2.5 years now, to lend legitimacy to improper and unvetted interpretations of the educational code, which are not supported and have been communicated at length in conjunction with our legal counsel, and the repeated misinformation about our careful and inclusive process into council business. This serves, in my opinion, to only play politics with student and staff welfare, and really furthers divisions in this community over what has already been a very long, very difficult, very public, very transparent, multi-year process to determine school closures in CUSD. Introducing false information into the public dialogue at this late date, once implementation is well underway, does real harm to all 14,000 students and 1,500 staff members in the school district, and represents jurisdictional meddling. If this is really where the majority of the council has chosen to go, then in our capacity as caretakers for our entire school district, all of our students, all of our staff, I believe we must explore our options for responding with the facts and any legal avenues available to compel them to cease and desist. I believe it's our duty as caretakers of this district. So I would ask to see some immediate planning for our board president and superintendent to attend and reiterate where we are in the closure and consolidation process, well into implementation, and to set the facts straight with a public correction of the city council's misinformation in the agendized item. I would also ask for communication with legal counsel to prioritize a response as soon as possible and before any additional distress or anxiety is created district-wide unnecessarily. So that's my request. Thank you.
Thanks, Laurie. So what should we be doing here? This is a agenda request, or what is
Well,
that?
I don't know if there's support from my fellow board members, so.
Oh,
I support that. I mean, I don't want to repeat everything she said, but I think we should be taking action about that. I agree.
Okay, so I can ask questions or no?
Sure. So right now, I am working with our legal to determine what our next steps may be. We haven't actually received the letter yet. We do know that it has been, I believe, agendized to be on the city council. I've spoken to the city manager. So I am already in contact with our legal as to what our next steps could be.
And are you planning to attend then?
I will be attending the city council meeting as well.
So this is okay. Should we be, since it's an agenda? So how do we? Is it like it should be part of a discussion in the next meeting, or we are just talking about? So that's a part I'm missing probably.
So if I'm understanding Lori's request, it really is letting you and I consult with our legal and determine the next steps, whether we want to agendize it or whether we want to address it in closed session or any other possible responses as well.
Got it. Thank you for that. Okay.
So clarification. So Stacy, you'll communicate with us then whether we're agendizing or doing a special meeting or doing closed session. So sometime between now and the next board meeting.
Yes,
Is that-
yes.
okay,
Satish and I will be conferring and figuring out next steps as
Great.
well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Anything else? Any other agenda items, since we are in this topic? Okay, so we are not at that, so that's fine. So shall I move for the next one? So next one is, we have, okay, we will be going for closed session. Before that, any public comments on closed session?
We do have one public comment on closed session.
Okay, please.
Kruthika Palvana.
Yeah, please go ahead. Kruthika. You're muted.
Can you
Yeah,
hear
go
me
ahead.
now?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Kruthika Palvanan. I attended Cupertino Union School District for 8 years as a student, and it brings me immense joy to have been working in the same district as a teacher these past 5 years. Yet despite my joy, I have people telling me to look elsewhere for a job. The caring veteran coworkers who took me under their wing say that I still have the rest of my life ahead of me and can ask me to consider moving to a higher paying district. What makes me most despondent is that I have students who tell me to look elsewhere too. It is problematic when our students recognize how underpaid their teachers are. I do believe in rainy day funds, but I do also believe that the money we spend on our students is worth it. These are students who should be coming back to our district as community members to shape its future. These are also students who, with our staff, make and share the legends, the stories, the relationships, the very essence of their schools with other teachers and students. How can those legends be passed on if you have such a high turnover in your teachers? I respectfully ask that you consider a substantial salary raise for our educators to ensure that our students can continue to focus on their learning and building the rich community that they are part of. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thanks, Kruthika. Anybody else?
No, there's not.
Okay, so that's a case, then we will adjourn for closed session. Oh, I think Kapil is listening. Yep, I'm just waiting. Okay, so we are back from the closed session, and I have 2 items to report. One is the board voted 5-0 to approve the settlement agreement for student 12-9-21B. The second one, the board took action in closed session by a 5-0 vote to non-renew 2 probationary teachers as per Education Code section 44929.21. Thank you. The board meeting is adjourned.